My eyesight was failing and my parents did nothing. When I finally got help, I exposed a secret that nearly destroyed our family. I'm Jess, 17F, and I've been dealing with some serious vision problems lately. It all started about 8 months ago when I noticed my eyesight getting blurry. At first, I thought it was just from staring at screens too much for school, but it kept getting worse. I told my parents, Mark, 45M, and Sarah, 42F, that I was having trouble seeing the board in class. They just told me to sit closer to the front. We've always been on the lower end of middle class, but things got really tight about 2 years ago when the factory where my dad worked shut down. He lost his job of 20 years, and it hit him hard. Not just financially, but emotionally too. He went from being this confident, outgoing guy to someone who barely left the house. My mom had to pick up extra shifts at the diner where she waitresses to make ends meet. I tried not to add to their stress. I stopped asking for new clothes or to go out with friends. I even gave up my dream of joining the school's art club because the supplies were too expensive. But this vision thing, it's not something I can just ignore. As the weeks went by, my vision got even worse. I started getting headaches all the time from squinting. Reading became a real struggle. The words would blur together on the page. I brought it up to my parents again, but they just said I was exaggerating and needed to spend less time on my phone. I've always been close with my mom. When I was little, we used to have these special girls' nights where we'd bake cookies and watch old movies together. But lately, she's been so tired and stressed that we barely talk beyond how is school? And did you do your homework? I miss those times with her, but I know she's doing her best to keep our family afloat. Things came to a head last month when I tripped going down the stairs at school because I couldn't see the steps clearly. I twisted my ankle pretty bad and had to go to the nurse's office. Mrs. Johnson, the school nurse, asked me a bunch of questions about how I'd fallen. When I admitted I couldn't see the steps well, she looked concerned and did a quick vision test. She told me I needed to see an eye doctor as soon as possible. When I got home that day with a bandaged ankle, I begged my parents to take me to an eye doctor. They refused, saying we couldn't afford it right now and that I just needed to be more careful. My dad muttered something about me being clumsy like your Aunt Linda, his sister who's legally blind. That comment stuck with me. Was there a history of vision problems in our family that no one had told me about? I tried explaining how bad it's gotten, but they won't listen. I can barely make out people's faces from across the room now. Watching TV is impossible unless I'm sitting right in front of the screen. And don't even get me started on trying to read my textbooks or do homework on the computer. This whole situation is affecting my friendships too. My best friend Allison, 17F, keeps inviting me to hang out at the mall or go to movies, but I've been making excuses not to go. How can I explain that I can't read the price tags or see the movie screen? I'm afraid she'll think I'm weird or stop wanting to be friends if she knows how bad my eyes have gotten. There's this guy in my English class, Ryan, 17M, who I've had a crush on forever. Last week, he smiled and waved at me in the hallway, but I couldn't see him clearly enough to be sure it was him waving at me. I didn't wave back, and now I think he thinks I was ignoring him on purpose. It's just one more way this vision problem is messing up my life. I know money is tight for us. Like I said, my dad lost his job last year and has only been able to find part-time work stocking shelves at the grocery store. It's a huge step down from his old management position, and I can tell it's crushing his self-esteem. My mom works 2 jobs now, the diner during the day and cleaning offices at night. She's exhausted all the time. I hate seeing them struggle like this. But this feels like it's beyond just being broke, it's neglect. My health and education are suffering. I can't function like this. I used to love reading. I'd spend hours lost in books, escaping into other worlds. Now, reading is a painful chore that leaves me with a pounding headache. I thought about trying to get a job to pay for an eye exam myself, but with my vision being so bad, I'm not sure who would hire me. Plus, I'm already struggling to keep up with my schoolwork as it is. My grades have been slipping, and I'm worried about failing my classes if this keeps up. I used to be an honor roll student, but now I'm barely scraping by with C's. Allison offered to ask her parents if they could help, but I'm embarrassed about the whole situation. Her family is pretty well off. Her dad's a lawyer and her mom's a doctor. They live in this big house in the nice part of town. I don't want to burden other people with my problems. And honestly, I'm scared of how my parents would react if they found out I was asking others for help. They're proud people, and I think they'd be humiliated if they knew I was telling others about our financial struggles. I considered talking to a school counselor, but I'm worried they'll call CPS or something. I don't want to get my parents in trouble. They're not bad people, just struggling financially. But at the same time, I'm desperate for help. I can't go on like this. There's a part of me that wonders if maybe I'm just being dramatic about this whole thing. My younger brother, Tommy, 12M, seems to think so. He keeps teasing me, calling me mole girl and asking if I can count his fingers from across the room. I know he doesn't mean to be cruel, he's just a kid and doesn't understand how serious this is. But it still hurts. I miss how things used to be in our family. We used to have game nights every Friday, all crowded around the kitchen table playing Monopoly or Scrabble. Now, everyone's too tired or stressed for that kind of thing. Dad spends most evenings staring at job listings on his laptop, Mom's usually at her night job, and Tommy and I are left to fend for ourselves. Am I being unreasonable for keep pushing this issue? Should I just try to deal with it on my own? I feel like I'm going crazy here. Any advice would be really appreciated. I'm scared about what will happen if I don't get help soon, but I'm also scared of causing more problems for my family. I just want to be able to see clearly again. Update 1. It's been about 3 weeks since my original post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for their advice and support. It really helped me find the courage to take action. After reading all your comments, I decided to talk to my school nurse about the situation. I was nervous, but Mrs. Johnson was really understanding. She remembered me from when I twisted my ankle and said she had been worried about me. She did a basic vision screening and confirmed that my eyesight was seriously impaired. Mrs. Johnson called my parents and explained the urgency of the situation. At first, my parents were angry that I had involved the school. They accused me of trying to embarrass them. But Mrs. Johnson was firm and explained that this wasn't just about school, my overall health was at risk. She told them about free clinics and assistance programs they could look into. My mom finally agreed to take me to a low-cost community health center. The waiting room was packed and we had to sit there for hours. I could tell my mom was uncomfortable. She kept fidgeting and checking her watch, probably thinking about all the other things she needed to be doing. But she stayed with me the whole time. The eye doctor, Dr. Patel, was shocked at how bad my vision had gotten. He diagnosed me with severe myopia, nearsightedness, and astigmatism. He said if it had been left untreated much longer, it could have led to permanent damage. When he said that, I saw my mom's face just crumple. She started crying right there in the exam room, apologizing over and over for not bringing me in sooner. Dr. Patel was really kind. He spent a long time explaining my condition and our options. He even stayed late to help us apply for a program that provides free classes to low-income families. It'll take a few weeks for them to come in, but knowing help is on the way is such a relief. On the drive home, my mom was quiet for a long time. Then she started telling me about Aunt Linda, my dad's sister who I mentioned in my original post. Apparently, she had similar vision problems as a kid, but their parents couldn't afford to get her proper treatment. By the time she finally got help as an adult, her vision was so bad that it couldn't be fully corrected. That's why she's legally blind now. Mom said that's part of why Dad was so resistant to getting my eyes checked. He was scared of finding out I had the same problem as his sister. I guess sometimes it's easier to pretend a problem doesn't exist than to face it head on. It doesn't excuse their behavior, but it helps me understand it a little better. Things are tense at home, though. My parents are embarrassed and angry that outsiders got involved in our business. They've been giving me the cold shoulder, barely speaking to me except when necessary. I know they're struggling with their pride, but it hurts to be treated like this when all I did was try to take care of my health. Tommy's been nicer to me, at least. He overheard Mom telling Dad about my diagnosis, and I think it scared him a little. He stopped with the mole girl teasing and has actually been trying to help me out. Yesterday, he offered to read aloud from my history textbook when he saw me struggling with it. It was a small thing, but it meant a lot. My older brother Jake, 20M, came home from college for a weekend and was furious when he found out what had been going on. Jake and I have always been close. He's been like a second parent to me and Tommy ever since things got tough for our family. He got into a huge fight with our parents, calling them out for neglecting my needs. It got pretty ugly. There was a lot of yelling and some things were said that can't be easily taken back. Jake brought up other instances where he felt our parents had dropped the ball, like the time Tommy had a really high fever but they waited too long to take him to the doctor, or how they never seem to have money for our school supplies but Dad always has cash for his weekly poker game with his buddies. Dad got defensive and started yelling about how Jake doesn't understand what it's like to try to support a family, how he's just a know-it-all college kid who has no idea about the real world. Mom was crying, begging them both to stop. I took Tommy to my room and we just sat there, listening to the shouting match downstairs. Jake left early, slamming the door on his way out. I'm grateful that my vision is finally being addressed, but now I'm worried about the fallout this has caused in my family. The atmosphere at home is so uncomfortable. Dad's been staying out late every night, probably to avoid dealing with us. Mom seems lost in her own world, going through the motions but not really present. I'm counting down the days until my glasses arrive, hoping things might calm down once this is all resolved. In the meantime, I'm trying to focus on the positives. Allison has been great through all of this. She's been coming over to help me with homework and just to hang out. And Ryan from English class actually asked me if I was okay the other day. He said he noticed I'd been squinting a lot in class. It was nice to know someone had noticed and cared. I'll keep you updated on how things go when I finally get my glasses and if the situation at home improves at all. Right now, I'm just trying to take it one day at a time. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and there have been some significant developments. My glasses finally arrived, and it's been life-changing. Being able to see clearly again is amazing. I had almost forgotten what the world looked like in sharp focus. The first day I wore them to school, I was overwhelmed by all the details I'd been missing. I could read posters on the walls, see leaves on trees outside the window, even make out individual blades of grass on the football field. My grades have already started to improve now that I can actually read my textbooks and see the board in class. My headaches are gone, and I'm not constantly exhausted from straining my eyes all day. It's such a relief. My English teacher, Miss Reeves, pulled me aside after class last week to tell me how impressed she was with the improvement in my work. She even suggested I might want to join school's creative writing club next semester. Unfortunately, things at home haven't gotten much better. My parents are still acting distant and resentful. They make snide comments about how I must think I'm so smart now with my glasses, or how I've turned the whole family upside down over a little vision problem. It's hurtful, but I'm trying not to let it get to me. Jake calls to check on me almost every day now. He's been a great support, always reminding me that I did the right thing by getting help. He's even offered to let me come stay with him at college for a while if things get too bad at home. I appreciate the offer, but I don't want to leave Tommy alone to deal with all this. The real bombshell came last week. I was up late studying for a biology test when I overheard my parents arguing in their bedroom. At first, I tried to tune it out. They'd been fighting a lot lately. But then I heard my name, and I couldn't help listening. It turns out, the reason they were so resistant to getting my eyes checked wasn't just about money. Apparently, my dad has been hiding a gambling problem for years. A lot of our financial struggles stem from his secret debts. My mom knew about it but had been covering for him, hoping he'd get it under control. I was shocked and angry when I realized this. All that time I suffered with my vision, and it wasn't just because we were broke, but because my dad was gambling away money we desperately needed. I stayed up all night, tossing and turning, trying to process this information. The next morning, I confronted them at breakfast. Tommy was still asleep, so it was just the three of us. I told them I'd overheard their conversation and demanded to know the truth. It turned into a huge blow-up. Dad tried to deny it at first, but Mom finally broke down and admitted everything. She told me about how it started small, just a few bets on football games here and there. But over time, it escalated. Dad would promise to stop, then a few weeks later she'd find betting slips hidden in his work bag or notice large cash withdrawals from their account. I asked why she never told us, why she let us believe we were struggling just because of Dad's job loss. She said she was trying to protect us, that she thought she could handle it on her own. She was afraid of what would happen to our family if the truth came out. Dad got defensive, saying he was just trying to hit it big so he could take care of us properly. He started talking about systems and odds, how he was due for a win. It was clear he wasn't seeing how irrational he sounded. When I pointed this out, he exploded, yelling about how I had no right to judge him, that I was just a kid who didn't understand adult problems. The argument got so heated that Tommy woke up and came downstairs. Seeing him standing there in his pajamas, looking confused and scared, made us all stop short. Dad stormed out, slamming the door behind him. He hasn't been home in days. My mom is a mess, alternating between apologizing to me and defending Dad's actions. She keeps begging me not to tell anyone else in the family, especially Jake. She's afraid he'll cut ties with Dad completely if he finds out. I'm torn about what to do now. Part of me wants to call Jake and tell him everything. He deserves to know the truth about our family situation. But another part of me is afraid of destroying our family completely if I do. And I worry about how this might affect Tommy. He idolizes Dad, and finding out about the gambling could really hurt him. For now, I'm focusing on catching up at school and enjoying my newfound clear vision. But this family secret is weighing heavily on me. I feel like I'm constantly walking on eggshells at home, afraid to say the wrong thing and set off another argument. I'll update again once I decide what to do about this whole mess. Right now, I just feel lost and overwhelmed. Update 3. It's been 2 months since my last update, and a lot has changed. After much consideration and a particularly bad night where Mom broke down crying over unpaid bills, I decided to tell Jake about Dad's gambling problem. I couldn't keep carrying that secret, and I felt he had a right to know what was really going on with our family. Jake was furious, but not at me. He immediately drove home from college, showing up on our doorstep unannounced. It led to an intense weekend filled with heated arguments and painful conversations. Jake confronted Dad, who initially tried to downplay the situation. But with all of us standing firm, Dad finally broke down and admitted the full extent of his gambling addiction. It was tough to hear, but I think it was necessary. The confrontation forced my dad to finally admit he needed help. He's now attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings twice a week. It's still early days, but he seems committed to changing. He's even started opening up about the shame and stress he's been carrying all these years. It's weird seeing my dad vulnerable like this, but also kind of reassuring to know he's human and can admit his mistakes. My mom has started going to Al-Anon meetings for families of addicts. She's slowly opening up more about how stressful it's been trying to manage Dad's addiction and hide it from us kids. Last week, she and I had our first real heart-to-heart in ages. We ended up crying together, but it felt like a step towards healing our relationship. Jake decided to take a semester off from college to help out at home. He's been amazing, helping Mom sort out the financial mess and looking after Tommy while our parents are at their meetings. I know it must be hard for him to put his life on hold like this, but he says family comes first. As for me, I'm doing much better in school now that I can actually see. My teachers have been great about helping me catch up on what I missed. I've even joined the school newspaper, something I never would have considered before when reading was such a struggle. And remember Ryan, the guy from my English class? We've started hanging out more. He's been really supportive through all of this family drama. It's nice to have someone to talk to who isn't directly involved in the situation. Tommy's been struggling a bit with all the changes. He's confused about why Dad is gone so often. We decided not to tell him the full truth yet, just that Dad is getting help for some grown-up problems. I've been trying to spend more time with him, helping with his homework and just being there to talk if he needs it. Things aren't perfect. There's still a lot of tension and trust to rebuild in our family. Dad has good days and bad days. Sometimes he gets frustrated with the process and snaps at us, but he's always apologetic afterwards. Mom still looks worried a lot of the time, but she's starting to smile more too. For the first time in a long while, I feel hopeful about the future. My parents are finally dealing with their issues instead of taking them out on me and my brothers. We're learning to communicate better as a family, even if it's not always easy. I want to thank everyone here for their advice and support throughout this journey. You gave me the courage to stand up for myself and get the help I needed. I know there will still be challenges ahead, but I feel better equipped to face them now. I'm not sure how often I'll be updating after this. Our family has a long road ahead, but it feels like we're finally on the right path. If anything major happens, I'll be sure to let you all know. For now, I'm just taking it one day at a time and trying to focus on the positives in my life, my improved vision, my schoolwork, and the knowledge that my family is finally getting the help we need.